Hey everyone, so happy to have you here for what is essentially what we hope one of many episodes of Digital Dialogue. What is Digital Dialogue? It's just an opportunity to have a conversation. There's a lot of things happening in the world right now. There's a lot of things happening in our communities. There are things happening in our homes. Some of us are very much affected by what is essentially, as Susie likes to put it, the elephant in the room, coronavirus. And so we thought it was a good opportunity to have a conversation with you in a format that's conducive to not being, not preaching at you, not taking this too seriously. If you are watching from your cell phone, you should be able to just fully expand and it'll feel like you're right here in this video call with us. So we hope you'll join. We hope you'll enjoy. And yeah. We just want you to feel that you are a part of this process. And so as we have conversation, as we talk about things, if things come to mind, definitely leave them in the comments below. My name is Jean-Michel. I live in London, but before we continue, I also want to pass it on to my partner in crime here.
Hey, thanks, Jean-Michel. As my friend here mentioned, my name is Susanna, or he calls me Susie, and you can refer to me as Susie in the future series of the Digital Dialogue, and I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation. I just would like to point out that we want to make this a really positive, calm, and safe space to talk about everything that's happening, express your opinions, and maybe learn a thing or two from each other and keep supporting each other on this kind of a crazy journey as we're living through an incredible moment in history. Yeah, Jean-Michel, do you want to kick it off and start this first digital dialogue?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. I think let's set the stage. Who the hell is this guy in the red shirt on the other side of the screen? Again, my name is Jean-Michel. I live in London. I've lived here for the past 5 years. As those of you from the UK will be able to tell, I am not a local. And those of you from America will be able to tell I have an American accent, which I think for Americans is something interesting for them to hear. Like, I have an accent? Yes, you have an accent and it has a style, and I am evoking it right now. However, I'm not from the States. I was actually born in Latin America. I have parents from different parts of the region, and I've moved around my whole life. Spent a little time in Canada, a little bit of time in the US, now find myself here. And I think one question that I'll pose to you, Susie, as well, and I'll answer first is, why are we having this conversation? Well, it's kind of just +1 to some of the things that you said. We are living through a moment in history, and this is a collective shared experience around the world. This is something that is affecting all of us in a way that past historical events have not for at least 1 or 2 generations. And so there is a need for a conversation, and we want to be a conduit for that conversation.
Yeah, I completely agree, and we are very, very lucky as a community to be able to share this, not just over the internet with our friends and family, but online as a global, like I said, community, excuse the tautology. And just to tie my personal reasons into why we're doing this, although they are sort of coinciding with what Jean-Michel has already mentioned, I just also like to point out that Jean-Michel and I, we live in London. We've lived here for a while. Jean-Michel's lived here for about 5 years, am I right?
That's right.
Yeah, 5 years, and I've been in England for around 7 years. And for me, apart from also capturing this moment in history and sharing this experience with you, I just kind of wanted to capture the small details that are very unusual in our personal experiences that we can share for other people to potentially apply to their life. And we wanted to provide some positive support for people out there, because you never know, we are lucky enough to be around friends and family in our households, but there might be someone watching this who's alone out there in their house, or just doesn't really have that much of a human contact. So we really hope to reach out to those people and not only share the positive support, like I mentioned, but also discuss some important topics and potentially infuse some calmness into the situation. Yeah, so there we go.
Awesome.
First of all, Jean-Michel, I think it's important to share with everyone what kind of a background we currently have. And do you want to talk a bit about your job and what's happening in terms of your job and this pandemic?
Yeah, in a way, this is a little bit of a difficult conversation because I admittedly am in a privileged position to work as an employee, to be salaried, and to work at a company that is well positioned to weather this storm. So my perspective and my lived experience through this will definitely not reflect the majority in this particular circumstance. I have the ability to work from home. The company is incredibly supportive, and the type of work that I do, which I categorize or one may categorize as knowledge work, allows me to do that very easily without a major adjustment for either the company or myself. So, I'm sensitive to this topic, not because I think it's not because we shouldn't talk about it, but that my problems, I think this is just like a life thing. Your problems always seem big to you, but they're relative to the position you hold. And I would wager a guess that my problems are a little bit more existential through this period of self-isolation and quarantine, depending on where you are right now in the world, that may not be reflective of what others are going through.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And from my experience, I can say that, for example, what I do has been affected by coronavirus, as I am a freelancer and I do photography and videography. Obviously,
Shocking that you do those two things.
uh, hilarious, right? Subscribe to my channel. I'm just joking. Although, so what I wanted to discuss is, as obviously many of you understand, I don't have any work at the moment. Because my job is one of those jobs that has to be done in person and that requires physical contact. Not just that, since I live in London specifically, it involves me going on public transport and me having to go through so many crowded spaces where it's essentially every step of the way it's a hot zone for the virus. So of course, people who are in positions like mine, who have to move around a lot in their jobs, who rely on going to different places to complete their job, have been affected first. At the same time, because I'm also a student and I have the support of my family, it's not been the worst for me. And there are definitely people who were hit more by this crisis, and our heart goes out to them. But also, Jean-Michel, did you participate in the flash mob last night of appreciating the workforce of the NHS around London?
Unfortunately, I didn't catch wind of that in time, but I have been following it on social media, and it was really cool to see all the different ways that people manifest their support and appreciation for people who are essentially in the front lines of this, perhaps poor analogy, war. And much appreciated for that, because they put themselves in personal risk to ensure that the rest of us can come out hopefully healthy and safely on the other side. Taking a step back real quick, I actually wanted to call out some of the challenges that you faced with freelancing, because we had some ideas for this channel and ways to record this conversation and make it conducive. Susie and I have been in chatting for about 3 weeks, and yeah, even the format in which we're recording this is representative of the challenges that the current situation kind of poses on work, such as the type of work that Susie does. So I definitely appreciate you being creative and finding ways for allowing us to make this happen.
Thank you, JM. Thank you. Thank you for providing the inspiration.
Yeah. Very inspiring. Look at me. I epitomize inspiration. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't want to take away from the gratitude that we have for nurses, cashiers, law enforcement officials, for those that essentially underpin the infrastructure that allow us to work from home. And that shows up in weird ways. Even the fact that we can have this conversation digitally with you all and between us as well. There are people that have to go into a data center, and they're split up into A/B teams to be able to make sure that the infrastructure is in place so that data can flow through between our individual endpoints. So I think that, kudos to everyone, both whether you're directly or indirectly involved in allowing us to take the measures necessary to flatten the curve. Hashtag should have been in the front, but I put it in the back.
We'll make sure that the hashtag appears in the video. Yes. I'd just like to also express my appreciation for everyone who is putting their effort in and going out to the front lines to make life as easy as possible for all of us who are weathering the storm. Obviously, this entire video for Jean-Michel and I is going to be based on our personal experiences, but we've kind of covered the main background and the professional side of things, and maybe right now it's worth to talk about the very personal impact, which is social life and home life. Jean-Michel, do you want to kick us off for this topic as well?
I genuinely feel like you're interviewing me like a newscaster. You're keeping me on point. It's like, yo, we got these talking points. We're going to hit these talking points. You are the crazy guest on this news broadcast, and I'm the interviewer. I'm going to bring you back. Okay, personal
Typically,
impact.
I'm the crazy one.
Not at all. Personal impact. Well, as Susie will know, and because this is how I met Susie, we both like to dance. And dance is an incredibly social hobby. And there is no surprise, it shouldn't come as a surprise to all of you that it is just not something, partner dancing, particularly Latin dancing, is not something that we can indulge in given the current circumstances. I have tried with a broom, not as effective, but hey, work in process. I'm going to iterate on that one. And
just a note,
yeah,
we are talking about, just to point out, because a lot of people don't know which type of dancing we're talking about. Well, the kind of dancing that we do is called social dancing, which is built around the fact that you learn a technique that you can take to different places around the world, and that's usually a social setting, so it can be in a bar or in a cafe, and after kind of the dinner time, which is when a lot of people take lessons to learn those techniques, there's a few hours in which you can dance with different people, and you don't have to have it choreographed. So the whole industry depends on being social.
Yeah, I know. That's a great point. It's we learn to speak a common language, and then once you have the basic vocabulary of that language, you can. Thankfully, I mean, this shows up differently in different countries. But particularly in Europe, people are very open to literally social dancing. You can go up to someone, ask them for a dance, and there's no qualms whether or not that person is or is not in a relationship. And once you have that basic vocabulary, you can express the dance in that way. And that probably has been the biggest struggle because it was occupying such a large portion of my personal goals and life and endeavors. I kind of repeated myself there, but it's okay. So I would go to work. I would wrap up work around 6 or 7 o'clock. I'd grab something quick to eat, and then I would go straight to a studio or straight to a class, whether that be at a bar or otherwise, and then social dance until midnight. And this was often. We're talking 5 days a week, usually. So you can imagine what a massive shift it's been to now be confined at home, which, by the way, wow, I have been so productive with life admin. Clean, like, I'm a fairly organized person, but the aesthetic details of my living space and my workspace and my routine and having coffee and preparing and making sure that all the little pantry items that I need are there. It's like I'm living a whole new world. I'm dealing with a whole different person. How has it been for you?
So, I just completely obviously can relate to everything that you're saying. And another factor that we have to mention is because we do so much social dancing, that basically makes up our social life when it comes to friends and seeing other people, because you don't only just see those same people when you go out, especially in great communities like London, but then you start making, bonds with those people. You go out for dinner, you meet up with each other. Not just that, we travel together to different bigger dance events and festivals, so it's kind of this amazing, huge friendship or a family type situation. Then, poof, and all of a sudden, you can't see them anymore. Everyone is locked down. The hobby's inaccessible. And I'm fairly lucky because I live with my husband, who I've met through social dancing, so we can practice. But, that's not the case for everyone. Jean-Michel doesn't have anyone to practice with, for example, so his hobby...
All by myself.
Well, he can practice singing, which is incredible. So, yeah. And it's one thing for us for the first group of people who are mainly notifications, so excuse me, and it's one thing for us as a group of people who are consumers in the dance. People have their jobs depending on it, and I'm talking dance DJs, event organizers, and everyone else. And you don't have that income that you would typically have. Not just that, but for people, sometimes you have paid for the venue long in advance, and your insurance doesn't let you get that money back, which is horrible because it's not exactly the industry where the biggest amount of money tends to flow, and that can really mess you up.
And actually, on that point, I would imagine that many of our viewers, at least initially, by the way, we're recording this on March 27th, just to put a kind of timestamp and anchor to this comment. I would imagine initially many of our viewers are dancers. And I think Susie and I would be super curious to know if you'd like for us to talk a little bit more about how artists and event organizers and promoters, and how we are witnessing them navigate this space and the different ways in which they're navigating this space. Because some are taking an approach of paywalls, some are taking an approach of online classes. It's also really interesting to see what some of the local studios in London, such as Base and Studio 68, are doing, Husky Studios, etc. If you'd like for us to talk about that a little bit more, let us know in the comments below, and we can make a particular episode or a conversation, or I don't know what to call it, insert name of thing here for the future.
Mm-hmm. Jam, just hold on. Don't worry, we don't have to stop the recording. Just gonna press do not disturb. And
nobody panic. The recording has not stopped. It's just paused.
It's cool. So yeah, I feel like we have to also give an appreciation to everyone in the dance scene whose career is in the industry, because they've been doing their absolute best, and they've been doing so many incredible things to help the rest of the dance society out. And a lot of that stuff has been incredibly cheap or free, so that's just unbelievable and so kind and so positive. So we absolutely have to appreciate those people. Yeah, I think.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I was just thinking about something. Let's pivot a little bit. I'm curious to know, and I have some thoughts here. We're obviously in self-isolation. We can go outside. Living in London, the guidelines for those of you that are not from the UK, or not familiar with what's going on in the UK, don't expect you to be. We have to stay at home. We are allowed only to go out for essentials, which is essentially food or pharmaceuticals. And these are the pharmaceuticals you can buy at a pharmacy, not other types. We can go out for exercise one time per day. And other than that, I don't think I'm missing much. Obviously there's exceptions if you're caring for someone who's at risk, et cetera, et cetera. We have to stay at home. So how are you, Susie, navigating that? Do you have a plan of action? Is there a way that you're saying, okay, I have this, right now it's about 3 weeks, maybe longer, that I have to be at home. What do you have in mind to make best use of that time? Or do you have anything in mind? Or are you just playing it day by day?
It's a great question. I believe that's a mixture of both factors, to be honest. As much as you can plan, you don't, not you specifically, we don't know how this pandemic is going to pan out. So yes, of course, I've got some kind of a plan as to what I'm going to be doing. And as annoying as it is, obviously, it gives me this pandemic gives me time to be productive at home and everything. But we don't know when that's going to be lifted and what kind of actions we'll have to take as the time goes on. And I believe that's the case for everyone, to be honest. For now, yes, I'm busy with my projects at home. I'm doing a bit of the exercise that I can, whether that's the outside run or the challenges that we've been doing with Jean-Michel, that kind of go with fitness, #flatten the curve. And yeah, it's okay so far. We can do what we can do. We can keep working on our projects. We can keep developing the skills that we wanted to develop for a long time that are accessible at home. But we don't know how this is going to go, and therefore we can't plan that much. So yeah, one thing that I have to talk about is the way that I specifically have been affected by the virus, and I'm sure there are also people out there who can relate to this. As some of you may know, if you know me in real life, I'm from Russia, And, well, to be fair, we've mentioned that we've only been living in London for the last few years, or in England overall. And of course, my family, meaning my parents and my brothers, and a lot of my other relatives are back home. Some of them don't have the visas to come visit me, and now the borders have been closed. And it's really difficult because I'm also here with my husband, and there's the whole stress around whether I should travel, how it's going to affect me, what happens, what is the bad thing that's going to happen if I do go back home, what is going to happen if I stay here, should I go back home, should I stay here? And the biggest thing is not to have the option to go and calmly see my family if I need to. I used to be able to fly to Russia every 2 weeks if I wanted to for a quick weekend. Wizz Air have like really cheap tickets, so it used to be like taking a train down to the countryside, and that was incredible. But right now, the situation is if I go, I have to be in quarantine. Will I be able to come back? I don't know. But then I have family everywhere, and that just sucks. And obviously everyone is also stressed out because they want to help each other, and there's only so much you can do for someone who is living a few thousand miles away. And yeah, just apart from that, we're cut off from our social circles and the same concerns, even though we're not in a different country with my friends, but they do go out to each other because I can't necessarily go and visit someone who is a few blocks away, because that, can potentially bring the risk of infecting them. Mm-hmm. But it's okay. We're staying positive. We are calling each other. We are checking up on each other every day. My mom calls me 5 times a day. Thank you, Mom. I love it. Thank you for keeping up my morale and everyone else's. So yeah, just remember to keep smiling and to not panic and stay happy, because we can do this. It's not that hard. We really, really can. Jean-Michel, is there anything you'd like to mention on the personal front? That is very specific to you.
I mean, there's plenty. What do you want to know?
So, in terms of, I know one thing that is specific to you, also relatable to some other people, including myself actually, is that it's a lot better to keep up friendships when you physically see the people around you, and then boom, your only way of communicating is this. So I'm pretty sure that has been a bit of an adjustment for you.
Yeah, my personality lends itself to in-person interactions. And so having to self-isolate can be very challenging. I mean, this is a challenge I have even if we don't have to self-isolate, because I am very in the present type of person. And so many of my best relationships with people are with those whom I get to see on a regular basis physically. I'm not huge into social media. I'm okay at keeping in touch, but again, I have a preference for in-person, and more so, I tend to be fully present in person. And so, yeah, being self-isolated means that I have to try to work out a system by which I can ensure that I'm touching base with the people that are important to me in my life, not only locally, but this is also a good learning opportunity on how to translate that into those who don't necessarily live nearby, including my family and my many friends from abroad who I deeply appreciate and I probably could benefit from speaking more to. And, to be honest, I think this has been a forcing function for all of us, no matter how good you are at keeping in touch. What I've witnessed in myself and in others is in a situation wherein we try to optimize our interactions with people. So we would say, hey, let's hang out, let's make a plan for dinner. I can't make dinner. Okay, let's plan 2 weeks out. Now it's, hey, let's just hop on a call for 5-10 minutes, a video call, and say hello. And I think
let's have dinner together. Like, I had dinner with
people
on Skype last night. Like,
that's another level for sure. Yeah. That's another level.
And Jean-Michel's like, I'm not ready for that commitment yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I am. But in building on that, it's a good lesson learned, because I can spend 5 minutes on a video call. If I am speaking to a friend in Germany, for example, or a friend in the United States, I don't need to have a protracted conversation. I can just say, hey, let's hop on a call for 5 minutes. It's the equivalent of a phone call, which many of us don't like to do anyway, but we're somehow comfortable with video calling. So just video call. Hey, just want to say hello. How are you? How's family? How are friends? Happy to hear it. Just want to, you got to water the plants in your life. And this situation has definitely is helping me learn how to water those plants that are a little bit far away. I got to send the clouds. I can't just bring the water.
Yeah, true. And actually, I just wanted to tie that in with another idea. This is how you can view the effect of having to stay at home and the effect of quarantine from negative and turn it into something slightly more positive. So a lot of people say, oh, I can't see my friends and I have to stay at home and I can't interact with them and real life interaction is better. It is. I completely agree. I much prefer meeting with people for dinner. However, the positive thing out of this is that, especially for those who live in expensive cities, for example, like London, you don't always have the physical opportunity, the time, the money, or whatever to make that real life effort with your friends. I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, but it is for quite a few people. And this, when we're all at home and this is our only way of communicating, show the person that you care about them and you're thinking about them by giving them a call. You don't even have to set it up, even if it's just a phone call for about 30 seconds that shows them that you are thinking about them and that you're making the effort to show you interest. That will really, really help a lot of people, and I think that will help people realize as well that you don't need to, go to too much effort to show people that you care.
Yeah, completely agree.
That's how I perceive it. But yeah.
All right, I know we have a lot of stuff to share and more conversations to come. But let's take a pause there. I want to thank you, obviously thank you, Susie, for having this conversation. Thank you all for being part of it. And let us know what you want us to tackle, whether it's what's happening in the world, what's happening in a particular location. Obviously, we're not going to the goal here is not to take an approach where we're going to be lecturing you about something. It is just to have a conversation, two opinions from different cultures, living in the same city, but somehow having to be forced to talk digitally about the situation that we're currently living through, this pandemic, COVID-19. Leave your comments below. Check out the description. I think our plan was to have, correct me if I'm wrong, Susie, to have links to some of the, what you could say are official resources with respect to this disease. And we want to include those because there is an opportunity for a lot of misinformation. And I really don't want to say that as a cliche. I really mean that in the sense of misinformation, like bad medical advice. So the links we want to include are from the NHS, which is the UK healthcare system, from the CDC, Center of Disease Control in the United States, and similar type of institutions, World Health Organization, etc. I don't mean misinformation in, was this a created virus, was it not? I don't think that's the scope or purpose of this channel. We just want everyone to be safe, and we want to have good conversations about how we're living our daily lives as a result.
Yes, and just to add to that, building on what Jean-Michel just said, it's going to be very positive. It's going to be very calm. And from things like discussing the recent events and making sure that you are aware of the correct details from trustable sources, whether that's the NHS or a trustable news source. Side note, also interrupting myself, but don't just read whatever news article is going to be out there. Find those most trusted, most checked sources online, because there's no reason to panic over something that's probably not even true, as media is trying to get attention and create revenue from, you sharing and going crazy online. But yeah, going back to what I was originally saying, it's going to be just a really positive space. We're going to be making videos on how to survive the quarantine, or happily how to progress, maybe how to spend your birthday in quarantine. And yeah, we're all here for you. Let us know what you want to see. Be a part of this conversation. Stay healthy and at home.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Jean-Michel. See you soon.